Welcome to Mayday, the show where I, 10-year veteran Trevor May, get to just rant about all the things going on in the baseball world. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Angel Hernandez, the Ippei dossier, and why the hell everyone is getting injured. Hey guys, welcome to Mayday, a brand new show from your boy, me, Trevor May, where I can talk about baseball and all the stuff going on in baseball without having to edit it into a video. There will be a video element to this at some point probably, just so I can grab some clips and things. But for the most part, this is going to live here on the MCA Media Network. That is a podcast network that my buddy Paul PM and I put together a few years ago. We have several podcasts on it, including Forgotten Past, which is a D&D pod. If you like that kind of stuff, go check that out. I've done a couple of one-shots with them. It's been a blast. We also have the MCA pod, our flagship, where we talk about movies, Paul and I and PM, and we go break them down. It's very similar to like the rewatchables from The Ringer and things like that. And we have a great time with that. That comes out every week on Monday, so check that out as well. But this time, this first pilot episode on the show, I want to get into some big topics, some topics that probably aren't going to get YouTube videos, but they will get audio, video. They'll get an audio time, a time to address them here where I can just kind of spitball and, God forbid, rant. Because if anyone who knows me well, and anyone who's watched me live on Twitch, anyone who's watched me actually in any YouTube video at all knows that ranting might be my favorite thing to do in the entire planet. And there is no one better on this world to start ranting about than the lovable home plate umpire, Angel Hernandez, unanimously known around the league as the worst umpire that you could possibly get when you're getting a start or having to go take the mound. And that is something that I frankly agree with. Now, I don't know Angel. I don't know Angel as a person, and I really don't feel great about just destroying people in a petty way, but Angel seems to only care about himself. He doesn't seem too interested in getting better. And that's kind of my biggest pet peeve in the entire planet. He seems like one of those people who cannot admit when he is wrong and cannot accept that he might have made a mistake and give a little bit of grace for a guy. He constantly is looking for conflict, and that is maybe the worst possible mindset you can have going in to the job of umpiring. Now, there's been a lot over the years of just terribly missed calls, of just like horrible, zones, inconsistency, multiple plays called wrong in the field, like just guys getting thrown out at first and calling safe over and over and over again. It's almost like he's not paying attention, which is probably part of it. And there is some of that. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing for me, if you're a guy who makes mistakes. Hey, we're human beings. You're right. We make mistakes. I saw one recently, and I can't remember the guy who was behind the plate, but Pavetta was pitching, and there was a pitch called that very much was painted. It was absolutely painted down and away. The guy missed it, and then after the at-bat, the inning ended, and he went out and said, hey, that's my bad. I may have missed that one. That is all a guy needs. That is all a hitter wants. That is all a pitcher wants. That is all anyone wants. They just want acknowledgement that they could have seen something. And Angel seems immune or maybe allergic to that, to taking responsibility. And you know what? While I'm on the subject, there are a few guys in the league that are like this, that try to exert power in certain situations. They try to show like, hey, I can make this decision and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's just a trait in a human being that just drives me absolutely up the wall. CB Buckner, same thing. I had a maybe I'm looking too far into this, but this is just how I felt at the moment. But running onto the field, every time last year as a closer, you're going to get checked. Your glove is going to get checked running out into the field. Okay. And usually it's the crew chief. CB is the crew chief, and Laz Diaz is the crew chief for him. So these guys who've been around for long are generally the crew chiefs. Not always, but most of the time. The guys with the most tenure experience. And so when you're running on, they'll meet you. Whether or not, unless they're the home plate umpire. If the crew chief's the home plate umpire, it's basically the second base guy, whoever's in the middle of the field at the time. So you run out there and they meet you. They meet you halfway. They meet you, or not even halfway. They just meet you when you're about to enter the field or the infield. So just to check you real quick and go. But they meet you on your line. You're running straight to the mound. They meet you on the way there. That happened to every single umpire except CB. CB decided that he was going to stand kind of off to the side about 30, 40 feet and be confusing. I was like, do you not need to check? Because he made no move to move into my line. So I was running straight to the mound, and every single other guy intercepts me, and I look over and I said, oh, do you need me? I hit him with do you need me? Do you need to check me? And he said, I'm right here. And that's when I realized, oh, he's just power tripping right now for no reason, just because he wants to. And that's just ridiculous. Now, there's no other reason to do that. And this is a pattern of behavior. I'll run out, I'll say hello to the umpire when I would go out into the fourth inning. Whoever's out there, I'd be like, hey, give them a salute, be like, hey, how you doing tonight? Because we're human beings and we're all in this together. We all have to go to games. We're all tired. Everyone wants to everyone wants to go home and hang out with, their dog or whatever after the game. And he just, everyone kind of gave me the nod, or, a lot of times the guys don't like to fraternize in that way, because I get it. You could be biased. You don't want to. And so instead of having a conversation, they'll just kind of give you a glance and a half smile or whatever, or just an acknowledgement. And sometimes they just kind of look towards center field because they don't want to have to not acknowledge you, which I also appreciate. But CB was in that area, and then he just kind of ignored me, and ignored me every single time. He never said what's up ever. So I mean, that's something that I tried to respect for a long time. But at the end of the day, I went through a lot last year, and I just wanted to have a human connection with somebody, just be like, hey, we're all humans here. And for some reason, that guy is tough to do. And I would say Angel also is pretty resistant to being a human being and just treating people like humans. So this brings me to my one example that I have today, because all you have to do is type Angel Hernandez into the internet, and you can see all kinds of the bad calls. He had a recent game where he called about 15 pitches 6 inches off the plate. 15 pitches. It was consistent. It was consistently bad. At least it was consistent. But my God, those were some of the worst calls I've ever seen. But the biggest thing for me is this interaction he had with Jeff McNeil the other day. Bad call was made. Jeff gets a little mad about it. I play with Jeff. I get it. Jeff's chippy, and he's very eye rolly, and he can be a little bit passive aggressive, which, you know what? I am too. So I'm not going to hold that against him. However, he is asking Angel questions, and Angel is just kind of following the rule book to the T and just won't listen to any context. He's not listening. He's just saying things like he's a robot. Jeff is do I have time? He goes, you called time. He's I didn't call time. I'm asking you, do I have a second because that ball came in? It was a pitch down. The ball bounced, and Jeff had to move his feet. Usually when you get brushed back a little bit, you get a half second. You don't have to call time. He was asking, can I get my half second, or can I get my second? And Angel immediately just gave him time. And then he goes, oh, I wasn't asking for time. And then Angel goes, you have time. And so he just ignored him. He just stopped. He just doesn't listen. And that is just infuriating. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes from, because if there is a problem, if there is, a disagreement, or you want information on something, it's just better to not ask him, because he's going to go out of his way to not answer you. And that is the thing that I have the most problems with. Yeah, the umpiring's bad. Right? He's not seeing stuff very well. I totally understand that. But the treatment, the way that he approaches criticism, and the way he approaches guys who have questions, who have genuinely good questions, is just the wrong way to do it. And there's just no place for it. And it's just frankly, it's just immature. It's just not very mature. And you don't want to have to, a guy who's enforcing the rules for a game, you don't want to have to treat him like a kid. That just feels like a weird thing. So it is what it is. But I guess we got to bring this in then too. What does that mean? Does it mean that every call needs to be right? I don't think every call needs to be right. I don't think that's as important as a lot of people think, just in terms of balls and strikes, because there is a certain level of human error that creates tension in a game, and baseball is tension. It's just the rise and swell, and then the drop off of tension. And it's about moments, and that's what sports are. That's what music is. That's what entertainment is. You want to build some tension and either resolve that tension or come to a climax and then go from there. Like, that's just how it works. And so having umpires as a part of that equation is part of that. And I think that that's important to have them be able to make certain amounts of mistakes without every single call having to be exactly right, like it's robots playing, because that is part of it. Now, we want the normal stuff to be called regularly, obviously. So I think instead of ABS, because ABS is just stupid. It's speaking of tension, only like if we had a robot only calling balls and strikes, my God, would that game be boring as hell, especially when you think the umpire behind the plate isn't the one actually doing anything. That just doesn't, you can't boo a guy when you know it's not his decision. It's just some, hidden other person or hidden other piece of technology that we really don't know anything that goes into it. That's boring. That is boring as hell. So we need umpires. But the challenge system, now that's interesting. I think if the challenge system is coming, I think it should come, especially if it's quick, because pitchers can use it. I love that because it's something pitchers can use, which is nice. Honestly, pitchers have getting uppercut in the jaw, right in the beanbag for the last couple of years with rules. Like, they just keep changing everything, and everything benefits hitters and nothing benefits pitchers. Now, I understand pitchers have an advantage. I understand pitchers are throwing harder. I understand this stuff. I get where it's coming from, and a lot of it's important. But it is nice to have something that also might benefit a pitcher if it's used with savvy. I think that's interesting to me as just an ex-pitcher, and I know pitchers, and it would be nice to see guys pull that off every once in a while. Just get one right? And then hitters can use them, and catchers can use them. And I actually don't know if the manager can call it from the dugout, but I'm assuming that any one of those people can ask for a challenge. And we've seen with Paul Skeens recently, he's got a bunch of them right. It's been all over the internet. It's a really cool system. And if it's quick enough and it doesn't slow the game down, I think it would also add tension and also allow us to get a lot of the calls right, but also provide another level of strategy, kind of like the pickoff attempts are, and like having like an allotment of things you can use. So if you have 3 challenges for a game, or you have 5 challenges for the whole team for a game, or everyone gets one or whatever it is, however you want to do it, then you have to keep. I love having a pool of challenges for everybody. I think that'd be super cool. And then you'd have to pay attention to like what's happening, how many challenges you have left. Who's calling it, where it's calling it. Like, you got to come up with a strategy as a team. Like, who do we trust to call them on? It's almost like setting yourself on a steal. Like, certain guys are going to be trusted to use the challenges, certain guys won't. And that's just kind of how it will go eventually. But it'll be really interesting to see who is using it all the time, who thinks they're right all the time. It would have been really cool to see a guy like Joe Mauer, have challenges. Like, imagine Tony Gwynn hitting and being able to challenge balls and strikes called. Though something tells me with those two guys, it would have hurt them more than it would have benefited them, because I think they were given the benefit of the doubt more than the pitcher was in those situations. So bring on the challenge system. Just bring it on. Give it to us. It works in the minors. Let's put it up there. And if you want to get the calls right, get more calls right. I think it's just about getting more calls right. It's not necessarily about getting them all right. It's just about getting more of them right. So that way we can kind of take some of that power out of Angel, and by extension, CB and a couple other guys' hands that don't have the ability to make an adjustment. That if you get angry at them, there's a much, much greater chance that they're just going to do things despite you, as opposed to improving the way that they're doing, or trying harder, or accepting any sort of responsibility for the actions that they're taking. And now I want to be very clear: the vast majority of umpires in the major leagues are guys who do this the way that we like it. Like, they like to have an open conversation. They acknowledge that they can be wrong. Some guys like have a bad day, or they're just having a day where they're like, I really think I'm right, and then it turns out that they're not, and vice versa. Sometimes there's a hitter who just really, or a pitcher who really feels like those are all there, and they're just wrong. They just don't have a good idea. And if you can own it, though, I'm open to those mistakes happening. So the rest of the guys own it pretty well. There's just a couple guys who happen to be around for a long time that don't. And it is infuriating. It's infuriating. So let's take a little bit of the power of their hands, at least behind the plate, and see if we can get some challenges going in the major leagues. Man, that was rapid fire. I like this, guys. I like this a lot. And if you want to participate in this, I think that something I would like to add to this show will be questions from the audience, or at least maybe statements from the audience. I'd like to get you guys to prompt me maybe, or just participate in the conversation. And I think the best way we can do that moving forward is for you to join my Discord server. It will be in the description of the show, but it's also discord.gg/Trevor May. It's pretty easy to remember. Once you get in, you can get onboarded. If you're into the gaming stuff too that I do, you can opt into that. But if you only want the baseball side of the Discord channel, that is something that you can identify, and you will only see the baseball channels. In there will be a channel that says Mayday. That is where I would like to have this conversation. There will be a channel entitled Mayday, just MAYDAY, and I will ask a question in there, and that is where we will get your answers. But for now, I want it just to be open. How about you go in and you just tell me what are some other subjects that you're interested in, me deep diving and giving you a little bit of information on, and I'll do my best and give you a little shout on the show and get you guys participating, because this is what it is for you. I like getting in front of the microphone. I like just talking about this stuff. And honestly, some shit in baseball pisses me off. And anyone who played with me knows I used to sit down in that bullpen and just rant. And so now here we are. I got to do it publicly without fear of getting, fired. At least getting fired by my own podcast network. I don't think I have horrible hot takes. I don't think I'm a mean person either. But there are certain things that are stupid, and they need to be called stupid. You like candy? Do you like caffeine? Well, then you'll love Focus Fuel, a company that a bunch of my creator friends and I have teamed up to promote and get out there, and it is awesome. I love this stuff so much. Each piece has 50 milligrams of caffeine in it. Comes in 3 delicious flavors: watermelon, tropical punch, and blue raspberry, electric blue raspberry. I knew. So, if you're interested in trying out this delicious product made with all natural ingredients and caffeine derived from green tea and a bunch of other electrolytes and things that make you feel better without the crazy crash, check out Focus Fuel. Go to thefocusfuel.com, use code BASEBALL. That is code BASEBALL for 10% off your order. And let me know what you think, because, man, I love it. So now let's get into our second topic of the day. The Ippei Mazuhara situation with Shohei Ohtani, or as I like to call it, the Ippei dossier. Recently, the law enforcement officials that were investigating the situation came out with an affidavit explaining in great detail. I believe it's 37 pages, which much of it I read. A lot of it was skimmable for sure, but there's some pretty good breakdowns out on the internet, one of which is on The Athletic, and it was written by technically my colleague, because I am on the Rates and Bills pod over there on The Athletic, by Fabian Ardaya. I apologize, Fabian, if I said that incorrectly. Please let me know on Twitter if I need to clean it up, which I probably do. But he wrote a great article about basically just the takeaways from this affidavit, and we are going to talk about it now because I just recently did a video on it. I talked about what it was, the dynamics between an interpreter and their client a lot of times turns into like a management situation, especially if that person is doing a lot of translating. They kind of become the mouthpiece for the client. And when they're the only one who speaks Japanese, which according to this affidavit, the only two people in this entire circle that spoke Japanese were Ippei and Shohei. And so, first of all, when every single conversation and every single piece of information is being filtered by one guy, that's when you're exposing yourself to something like this happening. Now, what happened only got crazier after the initial breakout. Really quickly, it was reported a few weeks ago that Ippei Mazuhara, who has been Shohei's translator for the whole time he's been in the big leagues, and since they knew each other in 2013 when he was younger, has been stealing money. It was $4.5 million. It's not $4.5 million. It actually was upwards of $16 million, which, excuse me, what? So this man has been betting on just random sports with an illegal bookie to the tune of $16 million. And we got movies. We got movies like The Italian Job and like Ocean's 11. Weren't they stealing like $8 million in Ocean's 11? Like, this is crazy. This is like Sopranos. This is bigger numbers than the Sopranos. That's like astronomical amounts of money. And the fact that he was even doing it, betting, which according to this article, there was approximately 19,000 bets made since 2021 that ranged from $10 to $160,000. And at the end, the total net balance was a total loss of $40.678 million, which is way more than he stole from Shohei. Evidently, there was total bets made to the tune of $180 million. Where is this? Shohei hasn't made this much money. Where is this coming from? I'm baffled, but of course, like obviously, there's money being made in some of these bets, so a lot of it was coming from that. So he actually did grow the amount of money he was stealing, but he was literally like, according to this, kind of just using Shohei's bank account as if it was his bank account, and that's so crazy. Considering Shohei's pretty much been removed from this investigation. He's basically been exonerated. They just like, yeah, he had nothing to do with it. How? Like how? How does something like this happen? So it just turns out that is what happened. It was like a brother situation. They're like, we share our finances, almost like a married couple, right? Just for lack of a better metaphor, they were fully trusting each other. And Shohei fully trusted him, didn't even look into the stuff, it looks like. And they've been together for 11 years now. If you can't trust someone you've been working with for that long, then I don't know who you can trust. But he just got taken advantage of. He got taken advantage of over and over and over again. And he just did not notice. And I mean, if there's anything to learn, it's look at your bank account every once in a while, maybe. But also maybe, $140 million or $180 million lost is a problem. Like you might have a gambling problem. It's hard to avoid, having the resources to know when you do have a gambling problem because they're everywhere in Major League Parks now. 1-800, I believe it's 1-800-GAMBLER. So if you have a gambling problem, go check that out and get help. Get help. It's there for you. And obviously, it's nothing to laugh about. I really don't want to disparage it because it's one of those things like if it gets out of control, it's just not something that most people have the personal strength to just quit cold turkey. You need help. I have anxiety. I need help with anxiety. And that seems like something that's pretty straightforward to work on yourself, but it's just not that easy sometimes. And I hope there wasn't a lot of that. I really hope it wasn't pain, right? There wasn't a lot of pain here, and I hope that, aside from the loss of money and obviously shattered friendship, most likely, that these two are able to Shohei's able to move forward. And is it ruined? Doesn't seem like he is. He just signed the biggest contract in baseball history, but and that Ippei takes responsibility. It seems like he is taking responsibility, but that might just be it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that wanted this to turn into like a Johnny Depp, Megan Hurd situation where they can just follow the trial for the next 6 months and give their hot takes on Twitter and make their TikToks about all the crazy stuff that's happening. And but it might just be open and close like this, and there's lawyers and law enforcement officials, and they've all just decided this is what happened, and this is what we're going with, and you think that these people are going to be like, I don't know, putting their reputations and their careers on the line for Shohei to keep him safe because he's important to baseball? I just don't think so. I don't see it happening. But there's still this huge amount of people on the internet. So put an asterisk next to it saying, I don't believe he had nothing to do with it. You just don't want to. And there's still a chance, of course there's a way that people could be fooled. It wouldn't be the first time it happened, but he doesn't need to be guilty. I don't know why people need him to be guilty. It's like we have an addiction to people that we view or we like as good people that then turn out to not be or turn out to have flaws. We love it. And you don't have to. I understand not everything's sexy. Not everything is this big like epiphany. Not everything is True Detective, right? Most of the time, people are just doing their best, and that's what happened. So, as far as what we know, that seems like it happened. Though there are some pretty crazy quotes here that I want to share from this article that I just can't believe. Here's some text between Mazuhara and the bookie. One here says, "Can you put 100K in instead of 300K? Do you mean lower credit to 100? Yeah, I get too reckless with 300. You don't say." You don't say. Another quote. "I'm terrible at this sport betting thing, huh? LOL. Any chance you can bump me again? As you know, you don't have to worry about me not paying." So something tells me that Ippei was communicating that Shohei was cool with it. It seems like the bookie was under the impression that like Shohei's on board, so you'll always be covered with the money, and that's why they're covering with so much, because he knew he had access to his accounts. And frankly, if you take huge bets like this illegally, you probably aren't super worried about verifying as long as the money comes through, right? So I would say do your due diligence, bookie, but why would you do that? So yeah, it looks like Ippei's going to go to prison. Or he's going to get in trouble and in a big way, and Shohei probably isn't. Now, will there be more details to come out on this? Yeah, of course. I would highly recommend you going and reading the affidavit yourself. There's some really insane stuff in there, frankly. There's some insane stuff, and basically, he just kind of kept the account that he was using private from even the financial advisors, which honestly, financial advisors, they respect that. They're like, we'll handle your investments, and then you have a fund that is yours to do with what you with, because it is your money. They don't recommend it, but they do. That's pretty common too. So this all just feels like a don't ask, don't tell situation. Just one of those things where everyone's like, okay. I mean, it's on you if anything goes wrong, and then at the end of the day, it went wrong, and it's on him. So there we are. Also, one last fun fact before we jump into our last topic, which I will be doing a long video on, but we'll get there in a second. He actually spent $325,000, or approximately $325,000, on transactions on eBay and whatnot from Ohtani's account from January to March of this year, which investigators believe were used to buy the cards with the intent to resell them buy the cards. The cards are baseball cards. So he was flipping baseball cards at the end here. So I just think he's looking for ways to make money quickly. It just seems like one of those situations, and he just so happened to have a relationship where he was the only translator, and he could say whatever he wants, and also had access to millions and millions of dollars. And this is just what happens when that snowball rolls downhill for 3 years. And if Shohei really is really angry about it, he definitely deserves to be. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but it doesn't seem like the conversation never happened even between like Shohei and Ippei on text messages. Like there's no text records of them ever talking about betting at all, which is insane, but also corroborates the story. So looks like this is what it is. I don't know. What do you think? Go to that Discord. That is discord.gg/Trevor May, and let me know, because why not? Why not? If you're not in there, you should be anyways. What are you doing? And now let's get into the big ass elephant in the room. Why the hell are all our favorites getting hurt? That is pitchers. Obviously, favorites means pitchers. You guys know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. Okay? Why are pitchers getting hurt at such a crazy astronomical rate? It seems right now. It was just announced today that Spencer Strider has undergone season-ending Tommy John surgery. Yay, Tommy John surgery is back, or not back. It's just still just crushing dreams of fans and players alike. I had Tommy John in 2017. It seems like I didn't actually see this, but I know he went and saw Dr. Keith Meister, who actually did my surgery. And so if he does get the surgery done by Meister, it's going to be 16 months minimum. For him to come back. It's just the way it works, but he does great work. I think he's the industry leader in this surgery, and he does amazing stuff. So there's nothing to be worried about there, at least in terms of how the surgery is going to go and how he's going to come back. But we still don't get to see him for the rest of this year and into quite a bit of next year. And that's just kind of how it works. So add that to the list as we have Shane Bieber, Tommy John, Lucas Giolito, Garrett Cole, strained UCL, though he is coming back. He did go down recently. Framber Valdez, elbow. Justin Verlander, elbow. Recently, Jacob deGrom had another Tommy John. And, there's a lot of questions on why is everyone getting hurt and what is going on. Now, I'm going to do a big, deep dive on this in video. I'm going to show you a lot of statistics, so I'll stay away from that now. But I'll give you my gist. Okay, I'll just give you my gist of I want to touch on it. I just want to touch on it and tell you what I think is going on. But before I do that, we gotta figure out what the commissioner's office thinks going on and what the PA is going on. And if you're wondering, I wonder what they think, you're in luck. They both made public statements about it because that is all we do now. We just make public statements where we call out the other side and then nothing changes. And I'll be honest, as a member of the PA for a very long time, and I've never been a fan of the commissioner's office. I think you guys know that. The finger pointing is getting absolutely just played out. I'm done. I'm over it. Stop pointing at each other. Someone do something. I'm so tired of watching people shrug and point at the other side. Like, no, they keep doing that. I don't fix it. Now, do they want to fix it? That's going to be our question that we need to answer. And I think the one side does, and I think one side only does if it's a big PR problem, but they don't really care other than that. And that's just the way it is. So let's look at these real quick. Let's look at these statements put out by both. And first side to do it was the Players Association. This is from Tony Clark. Despite unanimous player opposition and significant concerns regarding health and safety, the commissioner's office reduced the length of pitch clock last December, just one season removed from imposing the most significant rule change in decades, which was the pitch clock. So they changed the pitch clock again 1 year later. They made it shorter again. By the way, the reason they did that, and I have this off good authority, it was someone from the commissioner's office explaining it to us, said that games were getting longer towards the end of the year. Yeah, they were, because they matter more. Like, games later in the year matter more than games earlier in the year, just in terms of strategy. So things slow down sometimes. You try to find little ways to do it. You're not going to be able to keep the same length of game all year. If you played baseball or actually watched it or knew anything about it, you would know that. So that's a stupid explanation. That's dumb. That's stupid. That's something you're going to chase, and it's just, you're not going to be able to do it with just the pitch clock. It's not going to happen. So back to the statement. Since then, our concerns about the health impacts of reduced recovery time have only intensified. The league's unwillingness thus far to acknowledge or study the effects of these profound changes is an unprecedented threat to our game and its most valuable asset, the players. Now, that's a well-written, very concise statement, okay? And he's right. The most valuable asset is the players. The players make 100% of the product. So basically, the Players Association is like, hey, stop shortening the clock. It's not helping. And you haven't done the requisite research, and you haven't done enough prerequisite research. You haven't done enough research in order to chase the things you're chasing without hurting guys. It just seems like you don't really care that much, which, I mean, that's pretty base. That makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. Then, in true Rob and the Boys fashion, we get a reply that is way longer. So let's read this one real quick. From the Major League Baseball Commissioner's Office. This statement ignores the empirical evidence of much more significant long-term trend over multiple decades of velocity and spin increases are highly correlated with arm injuries. Okay, so in our first sentence, we have a good old-fashioned lawyer classic of, yeah, but what about? Okay, yeah, but what about is not an argument. This statement ignores the empirical evidence and much more significant long-term trend over multiple decades of velocity and spin increases that are highly correlated with arm injuries. Of course, guys are throwing harder. Yes, that does lead to more injuries. Yes, guys are spinning the ball more. Yes, leading more injuries. Are those two things hurting baseball? No, they're not. So you don't get to complain. So you don't get to bring up like, actually, guys, it's your fault you're getting hurt. Because at the end of the day, you got to remember, why do players change things, do things, get into things? Because they're being incentivized to. As a baseball player, your entire life is just trying to impress the next person that's going to make a decision about where you're going. And it's always been velo. We just have science now that tells us how to do it. Before, we were all chasing it before. We just didn't know how to do it effectively. It was very inefficient. A lot of it was natural. But we've all wanted to throw hard. If you ask Greg Maddux, like, oh, yeah, I loved having great command. If I go, what if you had slightly diminished command, but you threw 98? He'd be like, I'd love that. Everyone wants to throw hard. It's just the way it works. So acting like that's not actionable. That's not something you can do anything about. And so to start with that, say, actually, guys, it's your fault and there's nothing we can do about it, is very like, yeah, but what about? That's very shoulder shrug. I don't know. And that's annoying. So that's the first sentence. Nobody wants to see pitchers get hurt in this game, which is why MLB is currently undergoing a significant comprehensive research study into the causes of long-term increase, interviewing prominent medical experts across baseball, which to date has been consistent with an independent analysis by Johns Hopkins University, found no evidence to support that introduction of the pitch clock has increased injuries. Okay, let's break this down because, again, we have another 30% truth. So, in terms of the independent analysis by Johns Hopkins University, it found no evidence to support introduction. Go into the Discord and let me know if you found that study anywhere, because I haven't, because I can't find it anywhere. It's weird. It's weird. We're referencing something and then not proving it. So if anyone could find that, I would love to see it. I tried very hard. Have not seen it. So, and also to say things like interviewing prominent medical experts across baseball, which today has been consistent with an independent analysis by Johns Hopkins Surgery that has found no evidence to support that an introduction of the pitch clock has increased injuries. Just because it's inconclusive does not mean it's found no evidence. So I just need everyone to really let that sink in. These guys are lawyers. They're very good at spinning the things they're saying. Just because it hasn't proven, it's not one of those things that you haven't proven that it works, so therefore it doesn't. No, that's not how it works. It is inconclusive. But again, did Tony's statement say that it is? No. He said they're ignoring players when they say it's a factor. And that is true. So this is a response to an assertion that was never made. Because classic. Yes, JHU has found no evidence of that either way, because there's no study and I can't find it. So who knows if that even exists? I don't know. JHU also found no evidence that pitchers who sped up their pace were more likely to sustain an injury than those who did not. Again, it's inconclusive. We don't have enough data. It's only been going for a year, right? Yeah, you did it in the minors, whatever. But everyone in the minors hates it. So don't act like they love it, because they don't. They hate it. They all hated it. I've talked to players. They hate it. Like more guys hated it than liked it. Just generally, like they're like, I would rather not have to do this, but I can get used to it. That's mostly what people would say, right? So we have a finger being pointed at the league, which I don't like. I don't like it because it doesn't do anything. All it does is give them ammo to say stupid stuff like they just did. Then we get a rebuttal that doesn't actually that addresses things as like assertions were made, which weren't. The main underlying thing here is that I have a problem with is there is something called a rules committee. When a rule goes in, there's a committee of players, an umpire, and some people from the front office or from the commissioner's office that vote. 11 people. How many players are there? 4. There's 4 players, 1 umpire, and 6 people from the commissioner's office. It's literally a committee put together with 6 people that are going to vote for whatever the commissioner's office wants every single time, because they're not individual people. They're just robots that just follow the whatever the goal is to make more money. Like it, and that is the way it works. You just don't understand that's the way it works. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's annoying, yeah, and players weren't going to like that generally, but this has always been this way. This is why, lockouts exist. This is why strikes exist. This is why CBAs exist. It's that push and pull. It's important for that push and pull to happen. So they're going to keep doing that, but you need to go into this understanding where they're coming from, okay? So every rule is going to go through, every single rule. So this committee is just pointless, and it's embarrassing, and I hate it. And we said yes to this right at the end of the lockout, which I hated too. I don't think we should have done it. And now here we are. Where we go, hey, have you studied this enough, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, we're studying it now, but we don't really care. 6-5 or 7-4. It's actually umpires voted with the league every single time too. So it's 7-4 or 11-0. Every single time it's 7-4, the players lose, or 11-0, the players lose. The players will never win. So why does it exist? Because it's all about optics. Because it's the same thing as the statement. It's an empty gesture. It's always an empty gesture. So I think both sides here are right, though. Now I know that was a little bit of a left turn, but they're right. Yes. Guys throwing harder is getting them hurt more, but it's being incentivized. What do you expect them to do? Like, how can they change that? They can't, or they just won't get a job. If they try to go, I'm going to be command first and not worry about velo so much because I don't want to get hurt, good luck. You got to hang out and wait and hope one of the guys who throws hard, when they get hurt, that you get an opportunity. That's just how it works. So, cool. That's just a problem that can't be like it's not going to be fixed. And it also benefits the commissioner's office too, because guys that do these things and are these high level players are putting butts in seats and selling subscriptions to the MLB app. So like it benefits them too. So they don't want to get rid of it for that reason. So what is going on? Now, the video is going to touch on this in depth and I will break it all down. But some people have said it's sticky stuff. Some people have said it is throwing harder. Some people have said it's the pitch clock. Some people said it's the slick balls. Some people said it's the limiting of the pitchers on the roster, asking more of the guys, maybe throwing relievers more often, and whatever. It's all of those things. All of those things are contributing. But to act like the clock isn't is disingenuous and just false, because you don't have proof of that. Even no matter how much you say you have proof of things and then don't show any proof of it, doesn't mean you have it. So let's just assume that's not fleshed out because they didn't prove that. So what do we do? Do we want guys to get hurt less? Is there anything to be done? I'm going to tell you guys right now, nothing will be done. There will be no changes. Now, people are upset about, everyone trying to throw hard, and it's like, come on, just throw with command, but you're not going to get a job if you do that. So there has to be reconciliation. Also, I just want everyone to know, like, as soon as you throw hard, you don't just like give up on command. Like, guys are still trying to get command. They just want to do it with the best versions of their pitches with command. And that is what's happening. I threw harder and I still tried to improve my command. And there was things that got away. It was like the clock is actually hurting command because you can't reset. You can't be convicted in your plan like you used to be. You have to learn to do these things and make them easier. I had to do that last year. So there's a lot of that going. You cannot isolate for variables in this game. You just can't do it. There's been so much happening. And when you switch a rule year to year and you just keep making it shorter, you'll never know. You'll never know until the damage is done. And it's just a very reactionary way to handle things, which is demonstrated by the fact that a statement went out by the players. And then what did the league do? They reacted and put out their own statement to point the finger right back. When in doubt, just blame the other side. Where have we seen that? It's getting old. Let's get to the bottom of this thing. Let's actually, how about we sit across from the table and say, do we have an injury problem and should we work together to fix it? But that won't happen because there's no incentive to do it. Getting younger, when guys who are more expensive get hurt, younger guys come up. Maybe we get younger stars that are controllable longer, that become mainstays, and now the team's spending a little bit less money. It's just there's no downside for the teams except for losing really marketable players. So, but outside of that, most of the marketable players aren't pitchers. They're hitters, right? The hitters bring in the most money. They do. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I want to know. Hit me on Twitter. I'm Trevor May. Hit me in the Discord, Trevor May, the discord.gg/Trevor May, rather. And if you want to hear more from me, check me out on all the other podcasts I'm on. I'm on Foul Territory from time to time. Go check out and follow on YouTube Rates and Barrels. I'm on there with Derek Van Riper and Eno Saris every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, live on the channel. We get into deep dives and pitching and stuff. And then if you guys want to hear me on SiriusXM, I'm there every Sunday at 10 a.m. too, baby. That's 10 a.m. Pacific time on SiriusXM 83. That's Home Base with Danny Wexelman and all my phenomenal producers. I will see you next time, guys, on Mayday. Yeah, we need a little jingle. We need have some fun with this thing, but I ain't mad at it. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Woo!